through a freaking door.
that's not even what she was gonna do.
How was she gonna get past the guard?
That's for me to
Yeah,
know
the
and you
whole
to
blocking
find out.
guards thing, the shoulder to shoulder guards, that was me trying to cut you guys off and trying to investigate a little too closely. But I mean,
You,
it
you,
was
you forgot I can teleport.
Yeah, we have people who have like 7 for stealth, and then we have someone who can teleport and go invisible. And
I can do
Well,
this. Yeah,
technically those are the same
Go,
person.
Give
I mean,
me
I've got a
you're just
7
like,
and I can teleport.
I've got a 7 and a teleport.
but I think I think
have a second.
cutting off the fight was a good idea though, to be
Yeah.
honest, because then you wouldn't have been able to go through each of the locations I had set up for you guys,
hmm
and I had I had fun with Philip.
I apologize for if Iris was a bit of a drama queen, but she was angry.
That's fine.
No, that's fine.
I mean,
None of the things I said was personal at all toward you guys.
I know. I get that. I get that.
It's
I-
All
I mean, I
all
get why
meant
we had to cut
by
off
my
the
other
fight, but I
comment
kind of wish it
is
went on
that,
longer.
Sorry.
But
I was just saying that I get why we had to cut off the fight, but I kind of wish it went on longer.
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah. What I meant about the information funny thing, Panzers just want to keep her nose out of stuff to a degree, unless she's actually that interested, which she isn't that interested in this one, and then otherwise to just approach things with tact and not just go in, hey, do you know about the bad guy?
yeah, you guys were really upfront about it.
Yeah, that was surprising.
Like she's just
But Junior just be like, yeah, no, I can't. Just here's the information. Do what you want.
yeah. The fight thing was. I don't mind it being cut off early, but I don't feel like we didn't even get through the second round. Like I literally didn't really have time to do anything.
Sorry.
Yeah.
No, it's fine. My point is, from even in character perspective, it's kind of like, well, I didn't even get chance to show if I could work with the team. So how is it fair to say I couldn't?
Yeah,
That's all I
same.
mean.
Yeah, because I mean,
Yeah.
Onyx's next move was going to try to break, probably Iris out of the
hmm
control.
Yeah. Like a thing I thought you guys were gonna try was to cut off the lines.
That
Like,
was
Yeah.
definitely something I'd considered if not
Yeah.
for the fact that that information hadn't been given quite as quickly. Yeah, I don't know.
And the thing is, if the fight had panned out differently and we did work as a team, it would have been an entirely different conversation at the end of the fight.
He would have given you if you guys actually worked together as a team, he would like.
I
That
think
was the thing,
yeah.
though.
Yeah.
Iris didn't even get a chance to do anything in terms of
Mhm.
acting like a team.
Yeah,
Right.
which is why the criticism from the teacher in terms of saying you're not coordinated enough. It's like, well, no shit.
Yeah, I actually had like this little note that was like each team, like more teams are volunteering, but he goes through them as well as you expect. Like he's throwing out tips and like flaws in their stuff.
Mm.
But yeah,
Yeah, I think there's some game system things I'm still a little bit iffy about. But I mean, like how we're rolling attacks and stuff, because it just seems like that kind of thing's really slowing up our combat because we don't know what it is we're like, we're not 100% sure on everything we're supposed to roll. The only two things game mechanics wise the only things game mechanics wise that bother me is like typically, I mean, like if the way I do like D20 system would be attribute plus proficiency for weapons is all you add on them. The other thing for that is with the semblance points of it being a 16th of aura, but aura is based off HP, and that, as far as I'm aware, that's still based off constitution and strength. So basically, the more strength and constitution you get, the more semblance points you have, and that just kind of seems a bit
yeah.
wonky.
Now that you mention it, that is a bit.
And the only other thing I think is individual XP, but that's just my preference. If I GM, I tend to not do that. But I'm not saying don't do that. I'm just saying like that's just something I don't do, and that it could cause like party imbalances later on. if some people are more effective at getting like the last kill or that kind of thing.
Yeah,
Especially
You
Yeah,
also
but I mean,
give
the
experience out
bonus he
for
was
roleplay.
yeah,
The
but the
bonus
bonus
is
he was
bonus
giving
is
was like
small.
15 experience points. That was big for the
Mhm.
first level up,
Yeah.
and after that, I mean,
Mm.
maybe it might make a difference for the next level, but beyond that,
Yeah.
it's not gonna be relevant.
Yeah.
Uh,
It's probably
Eh,
not, but I
excuse me for a
prefer to
moment, I need to
neutralize it.
Okay, I'll keep that in mind.
I mean, from
hmm.
my understanding, the attack rolls is strictly what it says on your weapon. Like
Well,
caliber
yeah.
is 3.
Well,
My
typically
cannon is
those
2.
bonuses are given by magical weapons in like more conventional systems like D&D and Pathfinder. And
Right.
you know, like if you're regardless of your class, you tend to not fight with a weapon you aren't proficient with. So you start off with, if it's like a dex based, a finesse weapon in melee, you add dex and your proficiency to it. But if it's a magical one with a +1, then you get your +1 to hit on top of that.
See, I was told that we were adding a stat dependent on what type of weapon it was, and
Mhm.
then the um weapon thing. So like for my sword, I was getting 2 from my strength, and then 4 from the weapon I was using.
Yeah.
But I mean, if we're gonna remove even one of those, the enemies are gonna have a significantly lower roll to hit. Because I mean, I think
Well,
I was
well, we
barely
can
able
we
to
can
hit.
replace it with a
You
proficiency
nerds
though.
are still going on?
We could just replace that with the proficiency though, is what I mean. Because then everyone at the very least gets a +3.
Yeah, but I mean, even with a +4, or a +6 total, I was still having trouble hitting things, and so
But
it feels like
that was
it's
down to
too
a
high.
statistical. That wasn't because it was too high. You just had really poor rolls against a single boss monster, which was going to have a high AC.
I mean I
It's
rolled
too
I
much of a
rolled
particular
a
scenario.
19 in that combat, and it didn't hit him at all. I
Oh,
was
Rain?
rolling with an advantage and from behind him, and he didn't know I was there because I teleported.
Mm.
Well,
And I rolled a
that
19.
was.
That
Hang
felt
on.
like it should have been a
Hang
hit.
on.
That
That was
fight was
an
going to be
entirely different
railroaded.
fight. That was a
Yeah.
fight where we were going to lose.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
I'm
that
not
wasn't
saying
proper
I'm not
combat.
saying
That
we
was going to be railroaded.
yeah, no, I'm not saying we shouldn't have been able to win. I just feel like that should have been a hit. Maybe it didn't do any damage at all or whatever, but I felt like it should have been a hit because it was. I mean, everything was like stacked in my favor.
Yeah,
Oh,
I
get it
understand.
like this: Torchwick fought Blake, and she was teleporting around, and he was blocking every hit until Sun jumped in.
Hmm.
But no, she wasn't teleporting
So
around.
saying that,
She didn't teleport around. She moved and left a copy behind. So there was still definitely a movement that he could have followed, whereas I just disappeared in one spot and appeared in another.
Yeah, I understand. I understand where you're coming from, but I think that this situation isn't a fair criticism because the fight was basically
I
like
will admit the fight was
at forfeit for the GM to storytell. It wasn't a combat as much as it was a narrative thing for us to role play. Like really, like I think in a sense, like the combat mechanics involved in that fight were somewhat arbitrary. They didn't really matter.
yeah. I will admit the whole fight against Rain was going to be incredibly one-sided but I didn't
because
really
he's Crow's
think
level.
about things. Yeah, he was like several levels above you, and
But
that thing with the strings was a bit. I was hoping to do more with it, but like I realized that with attacks it'd still be that you guys rolling for it, and then things like doing other. He's restricted because he's using both hands to control you guys and things like that. But
I mean,
If-
even before we realized how overpowered, or not necessarily overpowered, but how high our rolls would be with adding the stat and the weapon boost, there is still we were fighting mobs with like a 16 or an 18 hit, and I mean,
Yeah, which were like, well, the King Taijutsu is hardly a normal Grim, you know.
Yeah,
Also,
the King
also,
Yeah.
also the thing is that also the thing is because this system has given us a +6 to hit and high ACs and AC bonuses from weapons to keep things kind of balanced with that 50-50 mid ground sort of sweet spot that you typically want to go for. It's important to buff the mobs as well, unless they're going to be in high numbers and quite easy. So like, I understand you're not only talking about that one, but like the King Taijutsu in particular, like that as first it was like a single creature against 4 things, so it's gonna have to be buffed a bit, and then secondly, it itself is one of the more impressive enemies that's
yeah, but
just sort of not like a boss, but gonna have high stats anyway. And
yeah,
this like only relative to other systems, a +6 to hit is pretty damn high. Like that, that's like in D&D, that's having 18 strength
yeah, but
between levels
also
1 and
with the fact that it was a giant snake, I feel like it should have had more health and less and but easier to hit. Because
Not well. The thing is, AC isn't just to hit; it's to do with the armor as well as the dex bonus. And given it's a giant snake, it's going to have giant scales, and scales are pretty effective natural armor. So
Yeah,
I see both sides of the point.
it really doesn't matter which side you go with.
Hmm.
It's still going to have the same amount of survivability. That's the sweet part that you want to hit, regardless of if you're whiffing or not. I mean, you can walk up to it and say, "Okay, you hit it square in the stomach." It does no damage because he's a freaking beast.
Yeah, same thing as like dragons. Why dragons have got such high AC? Like they're easy to hit, they're just hard to hurt because they're covered in armored scales.
Yeah.
And even then, they've got butt tons of HP on top of that too. I think the problem is that I think we all have our own like we're all going to have our own interpretations of what like RWBY is trying to as the show is trying to present. So we've all got kind of different ideas or expectations for how combat should pan out.
And I tend to usually go more higher AC versus higher HP in my homebrewed characters, just because I don't feel like if you decapitate someone or if you hit them in the throat, that they're just going to be able to shrug that off, unless they're like a big creature like a dragon.
Yeah.
But I've had people like stab unarmed people with that are like almost god level strength, but they just start cutting into them, and they cut into them for like 20 minutes, and the guy's still not even bloodied. I mean, that doesn't make sense to me. So when they just hit him and they go, "Oh, okay, you scratch him."
Yeah.
Oh shit, this guy's badass.
Yeah.
That's how my mindset goes.
Well, the thing for me that I do to deal with that is I consider damage to be relative in terms of like for instance, let's say you're using a dagger, it's a D4 HP, right? So you use 1d4 plus whatever modifier for how much damage it does, but that a thing's health points are I treat them as kind of relative to how healthy the thing is, its constitution and such. So like you say, you can roll max damage with a dagger against a big monster, but that's still only a scratch because the monster is just so healthy. The dagger, despite having got past the armor class, only gains enough purchase to scratch it. That kind of thing. Like you're dealing that much damage, but relatively it's a different just percentage of its health to kind of get rid of that arbitrary flat damage and flat health points kind of thing.
Right. Like the undead. I use them the exact opposite way because you can cut and cleave and all that stuff an undead monster.
And they just don't stop
coming. They just keep coming.
Yeah.
I mean, on the living, I tend to use the other way, especially if you're fighting just a normal adventurer like you or at your level. I go, well, if you get hit a couple of times, you're not going to be feeling very nice. So it's based off of that. And if we do start adding like dexterity to your attacks, if you're a dex build,
we already do.
Well, I've only been adding my attack modifier, the 2 and the 3.
I believed it was meant to be your weapon modifier and your attack modifier together. Sorry, and your attribute. So like whatever the weapons plus is and your stat for the weapon, whereas typically it would be stat for the weapon plus proficiency because weapon stats are normally given to very high level weapons.
So let's clarify